whether it's because the person just does not. Well, I guess we can say like this is one to avoid confrontation. They're just not maybe a talker, or maybe if they do talk about it, the person who they're talking with may become angry or be very defensive. Is just not able to receive, what's being said, and so they don't feel like their point will get across. So many times communication is delayed, and what happens is the longer it's delayed, the more effects there are from it. The longer it's delayed, the example that I have that I would give is it's like a garbage can that's not emptied out. So what happens? You continue to put something in that garbage can, and eventually there's an overflow. Eventually, it begins to smell. If it's not taken out, if it's not emptied, and it's the same thing in a relationship. It's what happens. It's the relationship becomes messy, and you're not clearing out what your thoughts, your feelings, your emotions. You're not emptying them out, and so it just builds up. It builds up. So what are some things that we feel may cause delayed communication? Anyone like to share? Causes delayed communication.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi, how's everyone? It's nice with you all this evening. And I just thought this was an interesting topic, very good topic, and one that I had a lot of problems with in the past. But yes, there's different reasons why we delay communication. A lot of times I delayed communication because I was so upset, and I knew that if I spoke at that time, that it might not be right. So I didn't want to say anything at that time, so I waited. But my problem was I didn't just wait until it was the right time. I would just not want to deal with the topic. And what happens is it builds up more and more and more animosity, or you just get more and more upset the next time something comes up. That's piled on top of whatever the issue was before, and then something else might pile up on top of that, and it's just a vicious cycle. And so you want to be very careful with that delayed communication, because it could ultimately be a problem, because then when you finally deal with it, you're bringing up a whole lot of different things on top of the one thing that you might need to be dealing with at that time. So you really do have to be careful. It is important to use wisdom when communicating. And if you know that you're very upset, your spouse or your boyfriend or your friend is very upset, and you two are not going to be able to communicate right, of course you might need to take a break. You might need to wait until you calm down, till your partner calms down, and then come back and discuss the situation, because you're not going to get anywhere fussing and arguing and being angry or very upset or whatever. So that's what you need to do. You need to calm down. You might even need to pray about it. Let God give you wisdom on what to say and how to say it, because it's nothing like seasoning your words. When you do finally communicate, and God can really bless you if you let Him. But a lot of times, and I'm just talking about me right there. A lot of times, I allow my flesh to speak through me, and that's where it's really not good in any type of a relationship. You really have to get out of the flesh. You really have to calm down, be in a right frame of mind, and speak then. So that's my advice in that situation. Never delay too much your communication. You might have to delay it for a little bit, but don't delay your communication the way I've delayed it, because I caused myself more harm in the end than anything by continuously delaying it, and then before you know it, like I said, everything piles up, and then it's not pretty. So communication is very, very important. And there's a way that you communicate. You don't communicate in anger. You don't communicate through your flesh. You use wisdom. Let God lead you when you're communicating, and you'll be amazed at how God will bless it. Like, that's even now, me and my husband are not together right now or anything, but right now we're learning how to be friends. We're learning how to communicate. I'm learning how to respect him when he wants to talk. And, because as women, we love talking. We love expressing ourselves. We got to get it out, whatever. But just take a moment, take a breath. Sometimes you need to let your spouse communicate. Listen to what they're saying. What they have to say, their opinions is just as important as our opinions. So that's what I have to say on the matter. Just a lot of times, if we would just let the Holy Ghost lead us, we would stay out of a lot of trouble. So that's my advice on that. That's my how I feel about the matter. I'm just learning to not delay my communication, but speak, use wisdom when I speak, and then also let my spouse communicate as well. Don't just always be the one that has the last say, and don't always be the one to speak all the time. And I yield my mic at this time.
All right. Thank you for sharing that. That was really good for us to take in. I know you mentioned that delaying the communication caused, issues at times. If you can, just touch on that briefly, what do you mean it, caused issues or caused a problem for you?
Well, like I was trying to explain, you could delay your communication, and then you feel like, no, I don't want to bring it up now. No, I'm not even. Matter of fact, I'm not even going to bring that up. And then something else comes up, and there's another issue. So now you've got this one issue that you never even dealt with, that you should have dealt with. Now you got another issue on top of that. And then all of a sudden something else comes up. So you might have 2 or 3 or 4 different things piling up that you never did address, that you never did communicate. And it's just piling up and piling up. So what happened with me is all of these things piled up, and I would just explode, Oh, you did this and you did that and you did the other. All of a sudden now we're talking about one thing, and I'm bringing up 2, 3, 4 different things because I delayed my communication and I didn't get it out when I should have. So that's what I'm talking about. You got to use wisdom, and you can't let things pile up and pile up. No, take care of that thing. Like I said, you might not be able to take care of it right at that second. You might need to calm down. They might need to calm down. But as soon as you know that you're calm and they're calm and you prayed about it, bring that thing back up and get that thing taken care of.
Yes.
And everything like that. Let God work that thing, because you don't want to have to deal with all of these different things on top of other things. It just causes a lot of problems, and it's not, trust me, I've been there, and it's not going to help anybody out. So yeah, you can't delay communication. It does no good for anybody, especially when you let it linger on. Now, obviously, like I already stated, if you wait just a little bit to calm down, that's fine, but don't delay it, and then this other situation comes up, and then another situation comes up, and then you really have a lot of issues to deal with, and it's not pretty after that.
Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
So my question then comes, the Bible calls us to be slow to speak. So when we're talking about delayed communication and taking time to really process what's being said or how it was said, so I need concrete data. I need like time frame. So do I wait a week, 2 days, a month? Because I know that if you come to me a month later and talk about, remember when you did this, this, and that, I'm gonna look at you like you lost your mind. So when we're talking about delay, can we just for me, give me some kind of ballpark, quantifiable type of number for me to really get an idea? Because I'm quick to speak. I'm gonna tell you right then and there, I didn't like that. And whether I'm angry or not, I'm not really concerned. I'm gonna let you know I didn't like that. So how do you? What's the time frame we talk about? Do I wait a week? And by the time I finish a week, I'm more upset that I'm holding on to this. So that way I could more or less appease you. Help me out here. Like, how long do I wait? And time frame, and because for me, the longer I wait with the fact that you did this to me, I'm gonna be more upset. Help me out here, please. Thanks. So Pastor Ruth was trying to help you out in the chat. She said self-control. So there are two different things here. So delayed communication in a relationship, whether it's marriage or whatever it is, we're mentioning how if you take too long to address major issues, too long to address something that's disturbing or that has affected you in some way, that can be dangerous, because now it's going to build up, and you should address it sooner. You shouldn't wait days. You shouldn't wait weeks, to address something that is affecting you in that manner. Now, when we talk about being slow to speak, sometimes when we're in a conversation and someone says something, we just jump quickly and respond. Those are moments when we're speaking of being slow to speak, because you don't want to say the first thing that comes out or comes to mind, because many times that can be dangerous. So we're talking about danger in two different ways. So yes, slow to speak, so that you don't just come out and say whatever you feel at that time, when and that can be damaging. So you think on that. Now, when we say think on that, we're not talking about think on that for days, but you wait, you ask God, okay, God, how should I say this? How, let me make sure I say it right. Guess what? It could be just 5 minutes later. As long as you've thought about what you're about to say, and make sure that it's not something that's going to hurt the individual. Make sure it's something that would be pleasing in God's eyes. So these are, two different areas that we're actually working on. So as far as, and I love how you said you need a timeline, there is nothing that is written in a book, or in the word for that matter. However, acknowledge God, definitely in what you're about to say. And so even when it comes to that, we're acknowledging God also, and because in the other way it says delayed communication is dangerous. You don't want to wait too long, because guess what it does? It builds up anger, whether it's in you or the other person. It could feel like rejection to some extent, as in that person may feel like, one, you don't care, so you're not even dealing with the issue. And I don't think that's your case at all. From everything that you say, you're ready to express it. You just need that, like Pastor Ruth said, that little self-control as far as how to say it and what words to use when you say it. Does that bring some type of clarity?
I wasn't referring to me. I was just asking questions. I was trying to anticipating something. Because one thing for me, if you come to me like a week later to 2 weeks later, this is me now, and tell me something I did to you 2 weeks ago, I'm going to look at you good and confused, because a lot happened 2 weeks ago. So, because I'll give you an example, and this is not just for marital relationships. Said to me, remember you did this to me? And I was just like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to do this. When did, because I haven't seen you in a couple of months. He was like, yeah, well, this was a couple of years ago. I said, a couple of years ago? I'm confused. I did something to you. Say, yeah, you said you were going to loan me some money, and I was in a situation you didn't loan me any money. Now, most people that knows me, that's one of my flaws, that I will give you my last dime, whether I need it or not. So I was even more confused. And I was like, how much money did I promise you I was going to give you? She's like, I don't remember. All I know is like, you promised to loan me some money and you did, and I was really upset. Da 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 da. And I looked at her and I walked away. I didn't turn to the right. I didn't turn to the left. I didn't turn to see if she's still looking at me, because to me, that was years ago. And you coming to me at it now? You could have called or text and said, where's the money you promised? So that's why I'm asking you, because there are a lot of time I'm told like, oh, remember you did this to me? And like, somebody reminded me I shaved their cat. And I'm like, the last time I remember playing with somebody's cat, I was like 10. I don't like pets that much. But she said, oh, you shaved my cat, and I was really upset. Oh my God, we're in our 30s now. You still upset over a shaved cat? Was the cat happy? What happened? And I know the more comments I made that was funny, that she didn't appreciate it, but I'm asking because you find that a lot of people do that. A lot of people come to you and said, remember in college you did this to me? Which college? Was that undergraduate? Graduate school? What? Which? So that's why I'm asking, because sometimes I find it hilarious that you coming to me like, I kicked the garbage can. Now, I remember in college kicking the garbage can. And I hear that all the time. Remember when you kicked the garbage can? That thing almost hit me. What? So there's a lot of people that are bringing up stuff that happened years ago, and they're either looking for an apology or looking to say this is how they remembered you, and in friendship, even in relationship. To me, if you don't address it to me like quite kind of like a little bit sur le champ, as soon as it happened, or at least a couple of days, I moved on. And if I moved on, you bring it up, I'm going to be highly annoyed, because I was like, okay, but I thought we were okay. We had dinner. How are we talking about it now? So that's the part that's like finding it like, Yeah, a little bit frustrating if you wait weeks later or months later or years later. Can you imagine? At 10, I shave your cat. It is now an issue and the cat is already gone. So, that those are some of the things I was referring to.
No, for sure. And that's an example. So imagine in a relationship if you wait all that time, because that's evidence that um, the delaying communication is a problem. Obviously people are still holding on to these emotions, these feelings from years ago. So think about it, if you're in a relationship and you don't address what has happened within, an appropriate amount of time. That may be, and real, in all truth, more than a day can can cause some problems, honestly speaking, because that spouse or that mate or that friend is looking like, okay, so you're not even going to talk about what happened, you're not even going to talk about how that made me feel, you're just going to let that go and not say anything about it. Or even aside from that, maybe they don't even know you're upset. Maybe they don't know you had an issue um, about whatever it is that's bothering you, but you're holding this in. And now, as Stephanie said, you're you're waiting till the next opportunity, and now you're about to explode because you didn't say anything. But so that's not that person's fault, and unfortunately, now that person is going to, to get it extra because you held on to the last situation. So we're seeing how yes, it is dangerous. Her and this cat. I'm so mad at you. You, we're saying how it is dangerous to delay communication. It's funny because I'm the type of person where I'll hear something and I won't respond right away. and uh, and so I won't respond, and I'm thinking of it. Like I always say, and I think I said this to my sister. I always say, a lot of times I don't think of things right away. I am. Y'all are killing me with these little these little things y'all got going on up in here. I so so I won't really think on it, or either I'll be trying to figure it out in my head, right? And then I'll come up maybe in the next 2 days and be like, remember when? you know, um, but that doesn't work in in friendships and relationships because people want you to address those things, as they occur. And like you said, it does. It feels strange if you come back to me. Yeah, remember last week when you said? Remember last month when you did? People are like, what? Well, why didn't you say something then? So it is a danger in that, you know, um, and it can cause a breakdown in whether it's the friendship, the relationship, the marriage, whatever it may be. It can cause a breakdown. Kalisha, did you wanted to share?
Oh yes. I love this topic. I just wanted to add in a funny story. I was, when was this? A year or two ago. I was throwing parties, right? And so I went back to my hometown because the party was going to be there, and I happened to run into an ex, right? And so I'm not thinking anything of it because they were an ex when I was in like junior high, so seventh and eighth grade. And so I'm one of those people like I was ghosting people back then with before it was a thing. Like when we break up, then I treat it as if my memory has been washed. Like on Men in Black. And they have that little machine and it takes away your memory. So then you become a stranger to me. And so I say that to say I was out passing out party promotion marketing material on the street, and he was like, hey, and I probably haven't seen him since high school, and so I was like, oh, hey, and then he was like, I kid you not, the very next line was, yeah, do you remember in eighth grade when you dumped me when we went on our eighth grade field trip to Great America? And then you didn't say anything else to me. Now, I don't remember I don't remember any of that, right? And so I called my best friend up from home and I was like, girl, guess who I just ran into? And I tell her what he said, and she was like, girl, you don't remember? You was like, girl, no, he way too clingy. And so we pulled up to Great America on that bus, and you was like, he is not going to be following me around this whole thing. I want my freedom. Like, and so you told him it was over, and then we just went about our merry way, right? This man had been holding on to that for we was 12. That was literally I haven't seen him probably in over 20 years. And he's married, got kids, and he was still holding on to that. And so I apologized. And I said, I'm so sorry. I said, I don't really remember. But if I did that to you, that was not very nice of me, because I hadn't called my friend yet. We were still, face to face, him and I. And so when I got in the car, I called her, and then she reminded me what happened, which I really still don't remember. But I was like, my God. So when you say that, sometimes we hold on to things, and the person who hurt us, they literally have moved on with their life. They literally are not thinking about the thing that you are still harboring, right? And so that for me was was an eye opener, because anything that I was doing, I was like, okay, I need to, anything that I was still holding on to, I was like, okay, I need to let this go, because this person is definitely getting on with their life. Now, the other thing I wanted to mention was, Ephesians 4 and 26 or 4 and 27. One of those two, where it says, don't let the sun go down while you are still angry, for anger gives a foothold to the devil. And so for me, this is a very important one, because I am, I will let something go and I won't talk to you for days. But what I realize is there's a difference between going to bed angry, right? And giving the devil access to your relationship and your mind and what's going on. Like, we can make a conscientious effort to choose to not be angry and forgive, and then have the conversation with our spouse, right? Because that not going to sleep angry and that forgiveness piece is internal, and that's something we work out, with God. Now, having a conversation with my spouse on what the solution is to this problem that we have encountered, that that is something that we have to come into agreement with at the beginning of the relationship. With my ex, for example, I'm one of those people, when we have something going on and we have an argument, I want to talk about it right then and there. I don't care how long it take, 3, 4, 5 hours, whatever we need to do in order to resolve it, and have a plan, like action items that we're both going to take. I want to do that. Well, with him, that was overwhelming, and he had a temper. And so when he got angry or got hot, he needed to take that time out to actually calm himself down. The problem I had with that was, when if you like, hey, I'm really angry, I'm finna go cool down. Well, he might be gone for a couple of hours. Meanwhile, at that time, I'm meditating on what don't happen. I'm running his scenarios back through my mind. I don't wrote out my responses. I don't thought about what you gonna say, and how I'm gonna say it back, and that wasn't healthy. So, anyways, what we did was we agreed upon that if he needed space or time, then he can take an hour at the most, and then we would come back together, and then that allowed both of us to get what we needed, and he can calm down, and then I didn't have to have days go by without having resolved this. So I think that, putting something like that into place that meets both of your needs and doing it at the very beginning, like setting ground rules on how you're going to fight, is essential, because then the devil doesn't have time to, it's not ruminating in your thoughts as to, they out there, they're mad, they're out there going crazy. Oh my God, they left angry. They can get into an accident, or, whatever the case might be. And so yeah, and with that, I yield.
Yes, but Pastor Ruth was, she said, sound advice, Kalicia. And getting back to what you even said earlier, you, we don't know. I'm sure that we all have a situation where someone is holding on to something we said or we did, and we have no clue. And so, again, if that is the case with situations that happened years ago, imagine what that can do in your relationship, your current relationship, just holding on to things. And I totally agree with what Pastor Ruth said as well, as far as, you have to make sure that the time is right. But however, even with that, then you should say something so that that person isn't wondering, okay, do you care? Or, are you, because what that does is it builds anger now with them, which causes even a greater issue. But it's nothing wrong with making sure that you're in a situation to share correctly, to share so that they can receive it. Because it's nothing worse than attempting to get your point across, and you're doing it in such a way until that person doesn't even want to hear you, and they shut down on you. So, all right. Will, I see you came up. Did you want to share? If you do, hit that little microphone. And, okay, Stephanie.
Yes. Well, I agree with what Alicia was saying, and what Shamin was saying. You don't want to wait. You don't want to give time. And I agree that an hour or something like that makes sense. But to wait hours or to wait days or whatever, it's just causing more and more trouble. And the way my husband was, you go to sleep, and the next day, and you still upset about whatever, and you bring that thing up, and he would be the first one to say, look, it's another day. That thing is over. And it's not that he wouldn't address certain things or whatever, but he's one like to always feel like, that's over with. Why are you harboring something that happened yesterday? Today is a new day. Let's move on. That's his attitude, but that's a lot of people's attitude. It's like, it's too many things going on in life for us to constantly just let things go on and on and on and on. So yeah, I agree with that. Hour sounds pretty good to me.
Okay, go ahead, Will. I'm sorry.
I think I found it. It's my first time. The word compatibility comes to mind in investment. If I'm willing to understand that certain things may be a trigger because of things that have happened to you in the past, now I have to take your emotions, I have to take your everything, your conversation.
I think we lost you. You're muted now. Okay, I don't know what happened. We don't hear you. You're muted.
I'm sorry, you still there?
Yes, we're here.
I'm getting it together. We're talking abandonment issues. We're talking all kinds of issues that that actually becomes trauma when you deal with stuff in a relationship, and then you go get into another relationship and you carry that baggage into that one, and that can lead into a wrecked relationship. So investment is key. Think about a business. If you want to get into business with someone, you have to understand how it affects you and how it affects them, and simply looking into that. Think about it from that person's point of view. Have that point of view when you're into any kind of argument or any kind of tense situation. I think it leads or lends to a better relationship in the long run.
Okay. I definitely. What you said? Compatibility, right? Initially.
Right.
So
Willing to get with an individual that you have like-mindedness, you have in common outside of the attraction, which is usually the first thing that comes to mind. But can you sit in a room and just be comfortable with that person and be quiet and understand, and feed off each other, vibe off each other? It's important, especially if you're talking long term, something long term.
For sure. So,
I have a question though.
go ahead.
When you're talking about compatibility, we're talking about at this stage we're not talking about compatibility. We talk about the fact that there's a connection, but you are having a disagreement and then you holding on to that what was said or things that was done days later, months later, and then with an attempt to later try to resolve it. And I think when we're talking about delayed communication, is that when you're holding it on, there's several things that could happen. As I'm hearing Kalicia and Stephanie and Jackie talk, it's you could either end up getting really angry, getting more resentful, and getting more upset over something that was done or said a couple of weeks ago, and you now bring it up when you could have easily said. For me, I think I like the idea to say I'm really upset right now because I don't want to say anything that will hurt the situation more. I'm gonna take like a timeout. Self timeout. I go to a spa or something, get my nails done, get my hair done. Give me your credit card. That'll make me feel even better. And then we could come back and revisit. And I think that would then create like more of a harmony thing, but because the compatibility is already there, it's just a question of how do we handle situation that you sat on for a couple of days and you're not going to bring it up. One of the comments that I mentioned is by somebody saying I shaved their cat when I was 10, and I'm still like 10, and I don't even like cats. So can you imagine me getting that close? That must have been a really old cat, because cats are feisty. So in any case, it's not a question of compatibility. It's a question more of like, you gonna tell me this 25 years later?
Well, think about what I just said about, and when I mentioned compatibility, that encompasses thinking about it from their point of view. Like you diminished the fact that she loved that cat and that cat meant everything to her, and you just dismissed it pretty much. So what about how she was feeling? The relationships are the same way. They work the very same way. So if you're not married and we're arguing, and I'm just stuck on my side of, and I'm not even trying to see what your emotions or your feelings or in that circumstance. We're already at a stalemate because I'm not even trying to hear you. That's an issue. Thinking about the point of view from the other person to say, okay, well, why are you making this such a deal maybe it is a big deal, because of trauma that this individual has had in the past. But now you're in a relationship with him, Now you're in a relationship, so now that becomes your point of view as well. You have to be willing to sit back and say, all right, well, this is important to her or him. I have to listen to it, but it may not be that important to you. So when I say compatibility, and I mentioned before about a business, you want to get into a business, and it may be other ideas that other person has. But now it becomes your idea too, and you have to deal with it because you're in a partnership with that person. So thinking about the other person's sensitivities when you're in a relationship is important. Because that can lead to some long nights if you're not communicating. If it doesn't mean anything to you, you'll be there all night arguing. Like you said, somebody's got to leave the house and get some space.
My brother will. I guarantee you I won't be up all night arguing.
And that's the point. And that's the point exactly. You're making the point.
I'm not.
I hear you. But, we're talking about communicating with each other, right?
And to add to that, and I'll even take what you said about the compatibility, because that addresses or that covers a wide area. It's good to be able to understand each other, and guess what? I be that individual who it's difficult for me to bring up certain things or bring up certain topics, or it's difficult for me to talk about certain subjects, right? And so as a partner, and if we are compatible or we understand each other, we've come to know each other, I'm going to know that about you, or you're going to know that about me, and so with that being said, I may know, all right, he does not do well talking about this subject. So let me help. Let me steer it. Let me bring, let me sort of kind of lead the way in this so that we can get it done. We can talk about it and we can get over this. But so often we become stuck in our feelings and in our emotions, and we're like, okay, whatever. Well, I'm mad too. But if we think about the success of the relationship and we make that the priority, then we become, as we've been talking about before, selfless in the process. And becoming selfless in the process will help to facilitate that successful relationship that we're working on. So can we, knowing, because at some point we're going to get to a place where we know the strengths of our partner and the areas that need to be developed. And so each one's communication or level of communication or the effectiveness of their communication is not going to be on the same level. So can I help you so that we can build a relationship that consists of effective communication? Pastor Ruth says, that's true, William. We have to try to understand their perspective. Personally, I would also be rolling my eyes when I heard the story about the cat. But there is something about just choosing to sympathize or understand, as William mentioned, certainly helps you to move forward and get to an effective outcome more quickly. People tend to become aligned better when they feel understood, or when they feel your compassion, and we may be at a place, are you talking about a cat? Or Calisthia's situation, really? You talking about when we were 12 years old? Get, for real? Stop playing. But people are literally, and as the word that we'll use, traumatized, but people are literally traumatized and still holding on to some things. I remember hearing this man, he had to be about 40, and he was talking about how this girl broke his heart when he was like 11. She probably don't have no clue. Somewhere with 10 babies, been married 3 times, living on an island. Have no clue. But that's something that he's still holding on to. And we bring that with us. Um, and now that person, prayerfully, we have someone, or we're with someone who's able to help work through, those issues. All right, I'm going to yield my mic.
Well, Jackie, with that being said, we're all damaged to a degree. We've all had some things happen in our lives that shape us and that, put us in this space. But, to use the word compatibility again, if we find a mate that we're compatible to, that wants to communicate on that level and really have a discussion to make whole again, to what you just mentioned about the 40-year-old guy, getting his heart broke when he was. I had a similar situation where I had my heart broke when I was in college, and didn't really pay attention to it like most do because we're busy living and surviving, if you will. So, I mean, I'm married, and I injured myself. This is back in maybe 2004. I had a really bad injury, and I went to see a up from the side. I'm crying like mine was this girlfriend that I had when I was 18 years old. Didn't realize the issue that had happened and that I'm sorry about that. It keeps turning off. That I was literally reeling from the relationship. And subsequently, all the girlfriends and significant others that I'd had up until my marriage, including my wife, were paying that toll. So it affects you. The trauma does shape who you are. I had firsthand experience that. And I mean, I literally found myself calling everybody, like, in AA and apologizing and telling them the very, very same story that, I came to that realization that this is why I was the way that I was in our relationship. So it really, really makes the deal to have a partner that's gonna, makes a difference to have a partner that's gonna pay attention and be like, all right, we're gonna work through this together. I mean, yeah, in a perfect world, that happens, but a lot of us, we don't want to be that sensitive, because some of us are, inherently selfish, and unfortunately, that's the truth. That's what I mean by a lot of us are damaged, and we're protecting ourselves. We're protecting our hearts, even in marriages. I just had a discussion with someone just the other day. A lady, 76 years old, talking about she's protecting her happiness. She's been married for 50 years. I said, what? Still damaged from a lot of what went on in her life, but she's been there.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing that. Yeah, we definitely hold on. And some of us are afraid. I'm going to say it like this: afraid to heal because we have to address what happens. And so when there's a reason why people delay communication, and we talked about being vulnerable. Because when you have to face certain things, guess what? You have to be vulnerable to do that many times. And
wouldn't it still having courage, trust in that other person, having the courage to trust that other person?
That's hard.
You're right, exactly. But I think that's the breakdown in a lot of our relationships. Oh yeah, she's my wife or my husband or my significant other, but can I totally trust this person to protect my heart? Which is the only reason why you're there.
Anybody else want to share or add to that before we're about to close out? Anybody? You know, the success comes in, honestly, when you can get to a point and say, you know what, let me give this a try. You know, so it's not even so much just about the conversations being delayed, but if we dig deeper, what causes us to delay these conversations, this communication? And that's the deeper issue. You know, what causes me not to feel comfortable sharing this? Why am I not sharing this? And that's something that we have to really examine ourselves and and see what that may be. All right. Well, thank you all for sharing. Thank you for your presence. Thank you for joining us in New Kingdom Marriage, where singles and married couples come together to be equipped for purposeful relationships. We are going to pray out. Anybody would like to pray out? Feel it, feel it. All right. Well, Father, we thank you. We praise you for what you've done, what you're doing, and what you're going to do in our lives. We thank you for wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. We thank you for this topic. We thank you for those who joined in and those who attempted um, to come in. God, please have your way in us, with us, and through us. And all relationships, whether it's with our families, whether it's with our parents, our children, our mates, our spouses, Lord, whatever it is, whoever it is, please intervene and have your way. God, show us how to communicate effectively. Show us how to be there for each other. Show us how to communicate in the way that you have for us to, so that we can have successful relationships. And so that we say thank you and we praise you until we meet here again. In Jesus' name, amen. We will be back here on Wednesday and Thursday at the 8:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time hour. You will be able to find us on Clubhouse, YouTube, and Facebook under New Kingdom Marriage. We hope that you join us, and we pray you all have an amazing night. God bless. We will be closing the room in 3, 2, and 1. God bless.